Greetings, flyers, aviators, mission planners, and anyone interested in ForeFlight. My name is Patrick, and I have been messing around with Google Earth, KML files, and ForeFlight for a few weeks now. I've had some people ask me how I created overlays for ForeFlight, and since I didn't see any videos on YouTube already, I decided to make a tutorial video to share what I've learned. In this video, I'll show you how to create AR633 alpha in Google Earth using points with different icons, the route itself, and a label with some applicable information that helps with basically the AP1B cutout from AR633. There are already tutorials on ForeFlight's website for importing KML or KMZ files into ForeFlight, so you can refer to their website for that. AR633 is, of course, an anchor type AR route, and while I know that ForeFlight has included AR routes in a recent update, this just provides a really good tutorial with information that's publicly available. So quick background on some definitions and programs we'll use. KML, or Keyhole Markup Language, is a version of XML. It's designed for displaying and recording geospatial data. A KMZ file, when I refer to that, I mean it's a zipped up version of a KML file, meaning it contains all the extra files like images that are linked in the KML, so like we add pictures. To create our files today, I'm going to go use Google Earth Pro, but there are many other programs you can use to create KMLs. I'll also be using a program called Gimp with a plugin BIMP, that's B-I-M-P, for some batch image editing, and then a program called Soda PDF that allows me to batch export PDF files to images. Sometimes it's useful to look at and edit the KML code itself, and for that I recommend using this guy right here, Notepad++. Okay, so first we'll open Google Earth Pro here. We'll go ahead and create a new folder. Call it AR633 Alpha. And we'll start by creating our first point. We've got the AP1B up here on the left for you to see. So first we'll add a new point. This will be our IP. Let's see, for this guy I'm going to make it 0.8 size. You're going to use this green color right here. And what I like to use is a square for the IP. You know, it roughly follows that old low-level routing that you might have used once long time ago. And that'll be our IP. Let's go ahead and remind Google that we want it to be green. Anytime you click on an icon down here, it's going to reset this stuff up here. Alright, so we're going to type in our coordinates, 35, 48.5, and hit tab. And anytime you've got west or south, you can just use the minus key, E4, 52.5. Cool, and that should be where our IP is. Boom, there it is. Alright, now we'll add our CP. So again, I'm not going to give it a label. In ForeFlight, labels tend to take up a lot of space, so I avoid using them. I try to use one label for every overlay. Again, for your CP, I like to use a triangle. Just makes it easy to identify. If I've got a legend, I'll actually put in there later. So for the CP, we're going to use 3611.5. Now let's just say we had this in decimal and then degree and then decimal degree points. You could type those in just simply like that. Google is going to convert it for you. If you had them in some other format like decimal, minutes, and then seconds, again, Google will nicely convert that for you. So it just depends on where you put spaces and where you put decimal points. So 8329.5, great. There's our CP. Now let's make all the other nav points. Just makes building the rest of the AR route pretty easy. For these, I will actually use a smaller scale just because these points aren't quite as important. Again, take away the name. And for this guy, I'm going to go with 3630.5. Then remember that negative in there, it's kind of self-critiquing. 337. Great. I've added that point. These go a little bit faster because I don't need to mess with changing the icon here. I can just delete the name and start typing in my points. And while these are a little bit difficult to see in Google Earth, you'll find that in ForeFlight you can see them just fine. Obviously, Google Earth with all their green background for all that woodlands we've got down there makes it a little tricky to see these points sometimes. You could change them to a different color and then change them back later if you'd like for ease of creation, or choose a different color altogether. Green's just kind of what I've been going with for AR tracks. Alright, there we go. So we've got all our points. I'm not going to make the exit points because the exit point's pretty much the same as some of the other points in there. But if you need an exit point, you can give it a different symbol, give it a name if you like. Right, so after that, what we're going to do is make a label. So for this guy, what I like to use is this target right there. I keep the scale at 1.2. This is going to be the label that when you zoom all the way out, you should easily be able to see that it's AR633. I'll, of course, name it as such. Where it actually goes doesn't much matter. I see my points. My AR track's going to look something like that, so I'll just put this guy right here. Alright, so for this description, anything that's HTML can go in here. You can just type in text as normal. However, rendering new lines, font sizes, bold text, different colors, you can do all that. You just need to know a little bit of HTML. You can figure that online. There's plenty of websites to help you that. W3 Schools is a really great one that has some good tutorials. But if you want to follow along here, this will get you going in the right spot. I'm going to use font size 5. I've just found that seems to look the most similar to the other fonts, the other sizes that ForeFlight's using. So the font size in this description will look kind of like the rest of the text in ForeFlight. So use size 5. And for this, all I'm going to do is include some basic information. The reason for this is so that the user can copy and paste it once they're in ForeFlight into a flight plan or add it after a point, something like that. Let's see, to make a new line in HTML, that's called a break, line break right there. So that's going to render as a new line. What I'd like to do is actually make this text bold. So I'm going to start my bold text there, end it there. So each of these is an open tag and a closed tag. Same thing with the font right there. And then anything between the B is going to be bolded. So I'm going to start from Robins Air Force Base. Probably imagine why. And here's the route that I've already got written out. Let's see, here's just a roll-in point. Here's my actual points, a little typo there. And kind of just got all my navigation points in there, just if I wanted to see the whole route. And then a little route to get back, just something like that. Just something easy. Now the reason I'm doing this is in ForeFlight, maybe I'll show this in another video, you can tap and hold and you can select all of this text, or maybe you're doing something after AR, you could select just this much of the text, or maybe AR and then you're going home, so you can select that. You can paste that into the search box up in the top right corner of the screen. Right now ForeFlight doesn't support pasting into the flight plan. However, if you click on a point in ForeFlight and add or replace that point, it brings you up a little text box and you can paste into that too. So that's a real quick way to add a flight plan from one of these overlays. Alright, so I'm also gonna add a little line break right there. I did it wrong. Slash goes at the end. Yep. And that's just saying, hey, this is the route, the format that I've gone with, IPCP nav exit. If you wanted to just put those points below this line break, you could do that too. That's enough there to figure out what's going on. Okay, so we'll hold off there. We're gonna switch gears, and I'll show you how to add an image into this. Let's see. To do that, what we're gonna do is open up SOTA PDF. I've already got it open here with the AP1B open. Now, if you wanted to export this entire AP1B, the whole document, or a subset of it, all you've got to do is go up to Convert, PDF to Image. Now, and then click Range. I'm not going to, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to export the whole thing, but you just enter your page range right there. I would recommend using JPEGs. I believe ForeFlight also supports PNGs or bitmaps, but JPEGs are generally going to be your smallest file size. And if you're ever worried about how big these files become, you might as well just use JPEGs. So save it to your folder, click Convert, and then it's done. It's going to open it up. There's our however many pages we exported, and there we go, AR633 alpha. Great. So now your PDF is an image that you can use. So the next step we're going to do is open up Gimp. It's basically your freeware version of Photoshop. Maybe not quite as powerful, but works pretty well. Alright, so let's imagine we had the entire AP1B down here and we didn't want to go through and resize every one of these images, because as you're about to see, each image is 260 kilobytes. It's pretty large is the bigger issue. It's 2,000 pixels wide. What I've noticed is the description box in ForeFlight ends up being around 950 to 1,000 pixels wide. So anything around there, anything larger than that, you're going to have to zoom out. So shoot for around 1,000 pixels. So what we're going to do is I've installed BIMP. It's a little plugin for Gimp. Click Batch Image Manipulation. Hit Resize. We'll switch this one to pixels. I'm going to shoot for 1100 just because I'm going to cut off the margins there. And instead of stretching, I'll hit Preserve. The height I don't care about, just make sure it matches the width. Click OK. So now, instead of that output folder, I'd like to output to this temp folder, which is exactly where my images are stored. So again, we go to temp. There's my images. Hit Apply. Do I want to overwrite it? You can put it to a different folder if you don't want to, but sure, go ahead and overwrite the file for me. Again, this could take a little while, as you can see, if you've got 500 images, but it didn't take too long on my computer. After that, you're done. Go ahead and hit Close, and again, if I hit Properties, you can see you've shrunk it down to 1100 pixels. You can use cubic. In retrospect, I'd actually recommend using a different one. Just after trying this a whole bunch, instead of cubic, try linear or this low halo option. I haven't done a lot of research into what the difference is, but those seem to give me a little crisper image. For now, just for this, I'm going to press on. So drag your image in there. Use this little crop tool. Right. Now the trick is, if you're ever getting AR633B, you want to make sure you hold on to this guy up here. What you could also do is just save this bit just as its own image and include it in the description along with your actual cutout. But for now, I'm just going to make this easy. And all we really want is this little section right here. I'll get the line below as well. Go to Image, hit Crop to Selection, and you can see up here 973 pixels. That's good enough for me. You can hit File. You can export it to something else or just overwrite it. We'll give it a little more meaningful name. So AR633 alpha. Then go ahead and hit Export. Oh, hold on. Yep, okay, it is a JPEG. Just wanted to make sure. This, you can bump it up to 100 if you like, or just hit Export. Okay, we've got our cutout. This is what we want included in the description portion at this point. Now all I'm going to do is add local image. We go to my stuff here. So my temp image is AR633 alpha. Great, there it is. Another thing I've added is a legend for the points icons that I've used. I'm just going to go to my desktop. Add that in there now too. Alright, now when we click, look at that. We've got our information up here that we can select. We've got our actual source document. We've got a little legend. Don't worry, that'll actually show up a lot better in ForeFlight than it looks in Google Earth. Let's see. So the final thing we're going to do is actually create the path. So we, can make some useful information about AR633. Now, if I was to make an enclosed area, I could use a polygon. Right? It doesn't really matter what you call this thing, but if you wanted an enclosed area, you could do something like that. The lines, I'd recommend using black lines. The width, something like 7.5, usually to 10 shows up the best. And if you didn't want it filled in white, you could do green, and you can actually change the opacity here so that you can see through the map underneath it. I highly recommend that if you're going to use polygons. So if you've got some working airspace you want filled in a certain color, that's the way to do it. For this guy, we're just going to use a path, though. Again, just for the sake of it, we'll call it AR633 Alpha. Move this guy over. We're going to start at the IP. The best way I figured out how to do this is to just zoom in a whole lot. Apparently you can't use your right-click button, so you're just going to have to use your scroll wheel. There's probably some hotkeys you can use as well, but for now this is what's going to work. So zoom way back out, and we'll go to our CP here. We'll call that good enough. As you can see, some of these points are a little hard to find, again, just because of those colors. Alright, great. Now I'm going to stop right here because that's not how AR633's airspace is. There's a curve here, right? Alright, so I'm going to stop there for a second. Hit OK. Go up here to the ruler tool, the path. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little circular portion. Let's see, how far apart are these 2 points? Start with my line. Looks like they're about 20 miles. So I'm going to go along the line that I've created to about 10 miles. Drop it right there. Hit my circle button. And then drag it over here. Drop it right there. I'm going to go back in here, right click on leave that open, right click on my route. Let's see, I'm going to change the color and width of this again so it's a little easier to see. You can change the opacity. I find 85-ish, 75-ish is pretty good for lines that aren't filled in. Now, if you ever want to delete a point, you just right click. Let's see it, or select the point you want to delete, right click. Now I'm just going to follow along this circle. For the sake of time, I'm not going to be super high fidelity with these points. You get the picture. If you want a little more fidelity, zoom in and click your points a little better. In retrospect, you could make your circles line end over here. All I got to do right now is find my point. Cool. There we go. Good so far. Zoom out, move over, and let's see if I can find it. There we go. Find my other point. And as far as making the other half of the track, lather, rinse, and repeat right here. Alright, there's 19 miles. What you could also remember is that heading 159.64 degrees. Alright, so I just go to 10 miles and find about 159. If I need to get closer, I can do 10 miles, 159.6, close enough. Hit my circle button. And again, for higher fidelity, zoom in all the way. I'm just showing you the process here. So again, clicks aren't super accurate, but you get the picture. And we're done. We'll clear that out. And there you have it. That's all of AR633 Alpha. If you export that into ForeFlight, you're going to see an IP here, you're going to see a CP here. You get your other nav points. For each of those points, you can click on them and say direct to or add to your flight plan. And then when I click on this point, I'm going to see all this text that I can select as well as these pictures. So the final thing we're going to do is take this whole folder, right click, hit save place as, and make sure that you save it as a KMZ file. That's really important. That way you're going to have all your pictures inside of it. So call it ar633.kmz. And there it is. Now to show you what the inside of that actually looks like, here we go. I'll open up 7-zip, a nice zip extraction program. And boom, there's my KML document. That's got all the code that I want, if you care to see what that looks like. And then here's my files. There's the legend file and the AR633 file. And just to see what that looks like, I'll drag it in here. Boom. You've got your document name. All these styles are describing how the points are showing up. Kind of outside the scope of this video, but there's your description. So if you wanted to see your KML file, there it is. Okay, so that's it for a basic tutorial on how to create overlays in Google Earth for ForeFlight. With this tutorial, you should be able to create all the points you need with the color codes and the icons. Oh, speaking of icons, I'll show you this guy as well. I'll see if I can link this in the description at all or post it somewhere. These I took from ForeFlight's website. Their file reorganized it into a little more friendly color-coded format for organization. But these are all the icons that ForeFlight supports. So diamonds, circles, squares, triangles, and some of these other ones you could use some forbidden pictures. These are really just variations of points, but they had them in their file, so I thought I'd show them. These push pins actually show up as an inverted triangle and a kind of a more isosceles squished triangle. But you can take a look at those. I'll see if I can post this somewhere so you can see what these will look like in ForeFlight. As I said, there's plenty of other programs that might do this better and more quickly, but this should be good enough to get everyone started. If you have any questions or suggestions, please post them in the comments below. Creating these products, of course, won't replace good mission planning or situational awareness, but my hope is we can use features like this to do our jobs better.